So we're at O'Brien's Pub in Newport, Rhode Island. I thought today we do a little pub crawl through Newport and try a few different kinds of places. This is right on Thames Street. It's one of the busiest streets in Newport. So you might hear there's these little three-wheel cars going by behind me right now. But I thought we'd do a little pub crawl throughout Newport. You know, Newport is really probably the most touristy. Oh my God, there's like 10 of these little three-wheel cars going behind me. Newport is probably one of the most touristy towns in Rhode Island and all of New England, really, because you're right on the ocean. It's an island, Aquidneck Island, and you're right here on the ocean. And in the summer, this place is packed. My God, if you try to come down with your car, if you're staying overnight, make sure your hotel has parking, because trying to find a parking spot here in the summer is a nightmare. We're here totally off season, and it took us 15 minutes driving around just to find a place to park. So that's what happens. And it is off season, and it's kind of cold out today, and it's overcast, and it's a little windy, and I got a mudslide because O'Brien's is famous for their mudslides. So that's what I got. And we asked the manager to turn on the heater. So I've got a heater going and I'm drinking a mudslide. I don't know. Things I do for this channel. Anyway, we're gonna try some different kinds of cocktails here. This is more of a casual type place, like an Irish pub type place. And there's a few places like that here in Newport. But this is right on Thames Street. So this is more where the tourists hang out. There's locals places as well. But if you're thinking of coming to Newport, you can take a boat ride out into the water. That's beautiful. Oh, the sun's coming out. It feels so good. So that's something to do. There's beautiful beaches here. We'll try to go to the cliff walk a little bit later on. That's really nice. And then just walking up and down Thames Street, you'll walk up and down the wharfs here. It's really gorgeous. And then there's the Newport Mansions as well. If you come in the summer, there's the Newport Folk Festival. There's also the Newport Jazz Festival. So tons of stuff to do in Newport. Like I said, we're here during the off season, so not as much to do, but we're gonna try a few things and get a few cocktails today and enjoy ourselves. So our next stop is the Black Pearl on Bannister's Wharf in Newport. The thing about Newport is there's all of these wharfs coming off of the main street, and they're lined, a lot of them with bars and restaurants, some of them with condos and hotels, some of them with marinas. So it's fun to come down here and explore and just go down into the wharf and then back up to the main street and then down to the next wharf. I don't think it's fair to talk about Newport without talking about a bit of its dark history. Newport was critical in the colonial slave trade. It was an integral part of what was called the slave triangle. What happened was slave merchants would go down to Africa, steal humans into bondage, transport them across the Atlantic into the Caribbean, and force their labor onto the sugar plantations. The sugar, or molasses, they would take the sugar and make molasses out of it, would be transported to Newport, where it would be distilled into dark rum. There were over 20 rum distilleries right here in Newport. Newport's a small, small city. So you can imagine it was just flush with rum distilleries here back in the colonial times. And they would make the rum, which would be transported to Africa, sold there in order to buy more slaves, and the triangle would continue. Slaves to the Caribbean, sugar to Newport, and around it went for, decades, centuries. Even after slavery was abolished here in Newport, in Rhode Island, slave trade still happened illegally, There are many, many accounts of harbor captains looking the other way and allowing slave ships to come into Bristol especially, but into Newport as well, and sell humans. So Newport was not only complicit in the slave trade as part of the triangle, but humans were bought and sold here in Rhode Island. It's a very dark period. Anyway, the reason that I tell you that story is to talk about this drink, which is a dark and stormy. And the reason why this drink is important in Newport, even though it wasn't invented here, it's still very well known and associated with Newport because it uses the dark rum that was part of the slave trade. This is made with dark rum, ginger beer, and lime juice. It's quite good, despite its rather questionable history. It's a very tasty drink. I believe I read somewhere it was first invented in the Caribbean, which makes sense. Dark rum is kind of from the Caribbean, famous for being in the Caribbean. But because of the contact between the Caribbean and Newport, it's also very well known here in Newport, and most places will pour you a very nice dark and stormy. Black Pearl is one of those places. This is great because you are literally right on the harbor here, and there's some nice boats back here. It's a really cool atmosphere. I would just say if you come in the summer, you know, it's fairly empty right now, but you come in the summer, this place will definitely be very, very packed. I don't want to just give a negative connotation of the of the relationship between Newport and the Caribbean. So I'll tell you this story as well. Back in 1980, John Lennon was working on his new album. It was in the very early creative phases of Double Fantasy, which would turn out to be the last album that was released during his lifetime. And he was thinking about the songs. He actually took a boat from Newport, right here in Newport, down to Bermuda, where he worked on many of those songs. And if you get some of these box sets of John Lennon's work, you can hear some of those original songs like Woman and Just Starting Over and Clean Up Time and songs like those. Beautiful Boy for his son Sean, who was 5 years old at the time. And it's just John sitting in a room in Bermuda somewhere. I imagine him with his shirt open, well tanned, his sunglasses, and a little drum machine, like artificial synthesized drum machine, singing these songs, and they sound very much like the finished product. So that's something worth searching out, and that's kind of a nice story to end our time here at the Black Pearl. But we are going to have some more cocktails here. We're going to see more of Newport. There's still more to come, so I hope you'll stay with me. So it's not going to be all drinking today. We had to get some sustenance. Got a late lunch at a place called Sprout and Lentil, and it's a little vegan place in Middletown, which is the next town over from Newport. Now, we moved away from Rhode Island back in 2012. It wasn't around then, but we've been back to Rhode Island several times since then. The lady inside said they've been around for something like 5 years. First time I've heard of them. So they're kind of tucked away behind a strip mall in Middletown, so not easy to find. Maybe that's why we've never heard of them before, but it's a cool little vegan shop, and they have all kinds of, vegan meatless options and salads and things of that nature. Really tiny though. They've just got a little bar to sit at and a couple outdoor tables, but it looked really good, so we thought we'd go over and give it a try. But not the greatest ambiance there, so we took it to go, and we are now at the Newport Cliff Walk. This is one of the best attractions here in Newport. It's a trail that goes a couple of miles right along the ocean, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I would just say this. We're in an area right now that's, well paved and stuff, but there are parts of this that have uneven footing. So if you have mobility issues, there's part of this trail that you can go on. Part of it might not be exactly for you, but the scenery is just stunning. Behind me, you can see the ocean, Narragansett Bay leading out to the Atlantic Ocean. In front of me, what you can't see is lines of Newport mansions. Now, these were called, when they were built, late 1800s, early 1900s, these were called the summer cottages of rich folks from New York who would come up here and summer. Cottage is, a huge understatement. These are massive, ornate mansions built by the robber barons of this age. A lot of people call it the Gilded Age, and the rich people of that time, the Vanderbilts and people like that. I call them the robber barons because this was at a time when these people were obscenely wealthy. Workers had very little protection, and there was huge income inequality. So basically just like today. But the Newport Historical Society, Preservation Society, has done a good job of rehabbing and preserving these mansions, these robber baron mansions. And you can visit them. And if you're into that kind of thing, it's fascinating to see them. There's places like the Breakers and the Marble House and things like that. And you walk through them and you're like, yeah, these people had more money than God. So that was here in Newport. Those folks don't live there anymore, except, I think some of these are privately owned, but a good vast majority of them are now owned by the folks who rehab them. Anyway, this is a place to definitely come in Newport. The walk is beautiful any time of year, and we'll give this a little wrap. I got a buffalo chicken wrap, so let's give this a sample. Yum. So, I don't know what kind of fake chicken they used. I was kind of expecting our buffalo sauce to blow my head off with spice, but it's not. It's not overly spicy. There's some lettuce and some other veggies in here, so it's got a nice crunch to it. That's quite tasty. I like it. We also got some nachos, but I'm not going to pull those out because that's just going to be an absolute mess if I try to do that while standing up here. But this wrap is really good, and that'll power us through our walk and the rest of the day here in Newport. This is the Clark Cook House in Newport. This is a famous upscale bar and restaurant here in Newport, and one of my favorite places to come for a cocktail. The bar is just gorgeous. It's outfitted with all this nautical themed stuff because the America's Cup was held here in Newport for years and years and years. Now it rotates to different places around the world, but it used to be here all the time. And obviously sailing and boating is a huge part of the culture here in Newport. So they celebrate that here at Clark Cook House. This place has been here over 200 years, almost 300 years at this point. So what I got was this cocktail called a Newport Water. And frankly, despite the fact I lived in Rhode Island for 22 years, I worked just over the border from Newport for 13 years. I never heard of a Newport Water, but this is what this cocktail is. Champagne, Grand Marnier, and Saint Germain. And I gotta tell you, first time I've had it, it's really tasty, because that that champagne is not too sweet. It's a nice brut champagne. So this is a tasty cocktail. My bartender is a funny guy. He's like, all right, don't chug it though. So I guess it's kind of strong. But it's very tasty, very good. And really a perfect way to end our great day here in Newport. You know, if you're coming to Newport, there are so many things to see, so many restaurants that we couldn't go to today, and bars too, tons and tons of them. And there's a bunch of places that have closed too. Some of my favorites that used to be here, like Salvation Cafe and ABC Club, and Yesterday's, they're all gone. But a lot of cool places have taken their place. So you know, you can go from little dive bars all the way up to a place like this, like the Clark Cookhouse. So it's definitely worth your time. It's a great place to explore. If you want more about this, you can check out my website, destinationeatdrink.com. Click on the U.S. destinations, and there's a whole foodie travel guide to Rhode Island, including a bunch about Newport. I also have a weekly podcast for locations all around the world. If you're planning on going somewhere vacationing, I've probably done a podcast episode on it, and people tell me that they listen to it before they go on vacation to learn about the best places to go and to see. So you can check that out at destinationeatdrink.com/pod. And if you like this video, give us a like below. And if you like food and travel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. My name's Brent Peterson. I appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you down the road.
I hear you. That can happen.